Welcome back to the channel Easy CS Learning. Today we are going to discuss one of the important styling that is extensively used in background styling for a web page. The background of a web page can be set using background properties. Right? So in today's session, we will be seeing what are the different properties that can be used to beautify the background of the web pages, right? To name a few of the properties that can be used or that are extensively used for designing the web pages are background color, background images, background positioning of the images that you are going to use, the size setting for the images, and whether you want to have repetition of those settings or no. So in today's session, we will be demonstrating each one of them individually. Before we could directly go to the implementation, let us see which are the functions that are used to set these properties for our web pages. Coming to the first one, that is the color property. The colors for the background of the web pages can be set by using various methods. The first one and the commonly used one is using the names of the colors that are predefined in the CSS color palette. Right? So the first one is naming the colors which are predefined and use the particular name. Next is use of RGB color method, which takes three values, each indicating for one channel R, G, B, and the values for each channel can be specified between a range of 0 to 255, where 0 indicates black or no color and 255 indicates highest intensity or white color for these channels, right? Or in other words, I say 0 is absence and 255 is complete presence of R component of the color. Similarly for G and B, a varying value between the range of 0 to 255 for each of these channels will create different shades of the color between black to white, right? So this is one method where values can be specified within the given range. The next method that is used is RGB A. Now, A stands for alpha, which defines the opacity of these three color channels that are being defined. Usually, the alpha value is a decimal value which can have values between 0 and 1. 0 representing no opacity or transparency, 1 indicating the highest opacity, right? So the next method that can be used to define a color that can be set as background is using your hexadecimal representation of a color. Here in hexadecimal representation of a color, the RGB values are defined using hexadecimal values. Before these values, a prefix of hash symbol is necessary, indicating the six following values are of hexadecimal type. Each digit or each value in a hexadecimal can have a value from 0 to F. 0 being the lowest value in hexadecimal representation and F being the highest representation. So if I want to have red color represented in hexadecimal, I say R is in fullest intensity, absence of G, absence of B. Likewise, again, using this combination, different shades of colors can be created. The next method that can be used for defining the color is HSL. H stands for hue, S stands for saturation, and L stands for lightness or illumination, right? Where your H value, that is the hue value, is always defined in terms of degree of color, right? And this degree of color can have a value between 0 degree to 360 degree. Whereas saturation and the light are defined in terms of percentages of the intensity of the saturation and light present in the generation of the color. An addition to this HSL is HSLA. Again, A representing the alpha value, which represents the opacity of the color that is being defined using these three components, right? And the final one is your transparent. Right, this transparent value indicates no color to be defined, or whatever is being defined should not be applied. Okay, so these are the methods using which you can define the background color for your web page. This is number one. Next is if you want to have images in place of colors, right, or a combination of them, then you have another property called background image. So again, background image can be set in different ways. Which are the methods here, right? Background image is the property, and this property can have URL as a method, which in turn accepts the path of the image where it is stored, right? In this case, whenever you are using an image, that image gets repeated continuously on your web pages, right? So this is one way of incorporating an image into your web page as a background. If you do not want the repetition, I said by default, the image gets repeated on your web page. So if you do not want, you can use another property of the background, such as background repeat, and the value can be no repeat. Then one time whatever image you have, that will be displayed on your web page as a background. This would be an example of your background repeat method. Okay, so on contrary to this, repeat has got various values. No repeat is one among them. By default it would be repeat. Then next you have repeat X, that means the repetition happens only horizontally. You also have another option called repeat Y, where repetition of the image happens vertically. And then you have an option called round, where no space is given and the image is continuously used to cover your background. And also you have a space as a value for the background repeat. What happens in this is the first and the last images are set at the corner of the web pages, and whatever gaps are available in between are uniformly set over the repeated images. Now coming back to the background image property. One way we discussed it is you can set it using the URL or the path of the image which you want to use it as a background. Next, if you do not want to use a available image. Rather, you want to create certain patterns of colors on your background. Then you have specific methods such as conic gradient method, which takes a minimum of two colors, say red, blue. You can give the colors of your choice. This is minimum number of colors. You can give any number of colors, using which a pattern, a conic pattern, is generated or is created as a background of your web page, right? Alternative to this, you also have a method called linear gradient. Again, all of these methods that I am listing here will work minimum on two colors, right? Then another one to this, that is apart from conic and linear, you also have radial gradient. Okay, now I said the conic gradient uses an angle, right? So if this is your web page, right, with an angle, the colors are designed. Okay, how many ever colors you are giving, those colors will get mapped to each conic section of the web page. When it comes to linear gradient, the pattern is horizontally set with the number of colors that you have defined. An horizontal pattern is created with your linear gradient. Whereas with your radial gradient, the circular patterns are created with the number of colors that you have passed to this method. That is, from the center point to the edge, right? The colors are formed. Okay, so you can use any of these methods, and in case you want to have a repetitive conic gradient, repetitive linear gradient, or repetitive radial gradient, you have three simultaneous methods with them. That is, if you just make a change here like this, repeating conic gradient, this becomes repeated continuously throughout your web page, right? Similarly, for linear gradient, you have repeating linear gradient. Similarly, for radial gradient, you have repeating radial gradient. Okay, so these are the various methods using which different patterns for your background can be created. Now, once you have image that you want to set on your background, now positioning is also required. How do you want to position it? Right? So for positioning, there are three ways. The first way is specifying the position using the predefined values, right? What are those predefined values and how are you going to achieve them, right? So there are 9 predefined values starting from the center. You say if you want to set an image at the center, then you are going to pass a value to your background position property as to be center aligned. Okay, or you can also give it as center. If you want it to be on center upper part, so you say center top. So it would be center top, right? Similarly, if you want it to be on either sides, right, then this would be left top, this would be your right top, right? This is left center, this is right center, this is left bottom, center bottom, right bottom. So accordingly, the same values are to be provided in order to have positioning of your image. If you are not interested in specifying these values, you have another method wherein you specify the position of the coordinates in terms of percentages, where x represents the horizontal horizontal positioning, and Y represents vertical positioning. Okay, so these percentages are always applied to your parent element, right? Wherever the image you are applying, if it is a the percentages are applied to the parent element, right? So for example, this is your screen. You have a division. This is your division. In this, the background image of this division you want to set to be x equal to 50 percentage and y you want to give it to be 50 percentage. Then this 50 percentage of this div element is considered, not for the whole screen, the entire screen space. So this should be kept in mind wherever you are specifying the position of the elements. The parent element is considered as a reference and not the screen otherwise. Okay, and the other alternative or the third method of specifying the position is in terms of pixels, that is x position and y position. In terms of pixels you can specify, right? So whenever you are talking in terms of coordinates in pixels, always one need to have an awareness that the origin is at the top left corner, right? That is 0 comma 0 starts from here. So if you are pixel positioning with the starting pixel of the image, if you want to set it to be at 50 comma 50, then you should always know the relative origin, that from there 50 comma 50 displacement is calculated, and from there the image is displayed to you. Okay, so this is how positioning can be done in three ways. That is, either specify the locations specified in this format, or give in terms of percentages, or in terms of pixel values. Okay, and the next one that we are going to talk about is specifying the size of the image now. We saw how to incorporate an image or create your own pattern. You know how to position it. You checked whether you want to have a repetition or no. Now, if you want to set the size for it, right? So you can have background size for the parent element, right? Or the image. You can have auto, right? If at all you have an image and you are setting it size to be auto, then whatever is the default size of the image, that will be considered as the value for x and y, or width and height of the background setting. Else, you can have another option where you specify length and pass two parameters, width and height. Okay, width specifies the coordinates in terms of x, and height specifies coordinates in terms of y direction. Now, if only one of the parameters are passed, either width or height, so the missing parameters value will be automatically taken to be as auto. That means whatever is the default size of the image, that will be considered. So if I give length only width, I do not specify the height, right? So this height is automatically taken to be auto, and what this auto is, it is the default height of the image that you are considering. Okay, so I hope the things are clear. You can also set the size in terms of percentages, right? So you can give the background size in terms of percentages of width and height. Well, if width you want it to be in 50%, or you want the height to be 75%, then you can specify it in terms of percentages also. Again, remember these parameters will be applied to the container with reference to the container element or the parent element and not directly with the screen. If at all the image is set to the entire web page, then the screen size is considered. The last alternative to the length and percentage is your cover. That means whatever is the size of the parent element, the image should occupy the entire size of that parent element. Okay, so this is how we can set background in different mm, forms as required by your application. That is, you can set a background through color or images and specify their parameters using position, size, and repeat properties of your background. Now, quickly, let us see how to execute the same through real-time implementation or working examples. So quickly, let me open up my notepad and start typing the code, right? So the first thing is having the basic structure of the web document. So let me quickly type in background properties demo. Okay. So that will be the title set to my web page. Then in order to have the styling, I am going to use internal CSS wherein I want to specify um, okay, let me just keep this empty as of now. Let me first define my elements and then uh, come back for the styling, right? For which I need to define the elements in the body section of the web page. So let me use a div here and say color settings would be the info that I display using paragraph element, and I just close it. I do not want anything beyond this. I close my div, then I close my body tag of the web document and then HTML. Right, now let me style this. Now this div, I want it to have a color, right? So an internal CSS which is using a element selector which is div for me. So what do I want to do? I want to set the color, background color. Background color, right? So I want it to be in red color. Let us first check this. Okay. Save this. Say C1. I'm going to save this with extension HTML and say save. Let me quickly go to the desktop and run my program. Yes, the background for the div is set. Right? You can observe it is not set for the entire web page. If you want to set it for the entire web page, what are you going to do? You are going to use the body element, right? Which is having the scope of entire screen space. Right? So here I say background color. So let it be uh, light blue. So if you observe here, I am naming certain colors and these colors are predefined ones which are available in the CSS color palette. Okay. So let me quickly save this and rerun the program. Background color light blue. Okay, let me just check it with blue if it is not available. Yeah, right. So that means you should be knowing the names of the colors that are predefined and are used correctly, right? Otherwise the properties will not get set. Okay, this is how the first method, that is use of colors with the predefined colors. Now let me check with the RGB color values. Now, if you want to specify the background color using RGB method, then this is how you are going to use. So what is this method going to take? It is going to accept three parameters: value for R, G and B, and these values can be within the range of 0 to 255. So let me put 255, that is R is complete, G is not there, B is not there. Okay, let me save this and quickly go to my web page and run. There is no change because I have defined the red color itself. Now let me make green color full. Okay, so it has to be a combination of red and green highest intensity, right? So let us observe now. Yellow is the color that is generated. Nowhere in the code I have mentioned it has to be yellow color, but by specifying the values, the combination of these values will give rise to different colors, right? Similarly, you can also use RGB alpha. The fourth value is a decimal value. When I give it to be 50% or zero point 0.5, right, and save this and execute, right, the opacity of the color changes. Okay, so likewise you can test your program with the required things. Fine. So now let me quickly demonstrate the other method. Apart from color, RGB and RGBA, we saw hexadecimal colors, right? I said these hexadecimal colors can be defined by prefixing hash, and six values are defined. These six values are for R, G and B, right? First two values are for R, next two are for green color and the last two are for blue color. So if I want to define a green color, right, the values are always between 0 and F. You all be you all would be knowing about the hexadecimal number system, right? So those values we are going to use. So in the color combination that I have specified, there is no red and no blue color, only green color is with full intensity. So let us check if this is applied to our, yes, it is applied to our background of the div element. Okay, so the next method using which the color can be defined is your HSL, where hue, saturation and lightness are specified. Hue is always specified in terms of degree. Saturation and light intensities are defined using percentages, right? So now I specify 60 percentage of saturation, light to be of 20%, right? So let me save this quickly and execute, right? You're not able to visualize the colors properly, so let me make this 10%. Okay, I think I am missing this. I should not be missing these things, right? Yes, you are able to see this. Okay, so let me make it more lighter. Let me introduce the light factor more, right? So likewise, you can create the shades using HSL method also. Apart from this, you also have HSLA, right? Wherein you can specify the opacity factor also. Say if it is 30%, 0.3, because alpha values are always represented using your represented using your decimal values, right? If I give it higher, it becomes more and more opaque. If I give it the smaller value, it becomes more and more transparent. Okay, so likewise, the colors can be generated as per your requirement. Now let me quickly see how do I set the image to this particular div. So I want to have, okay, background image. Right? This would be the property name. I have an image of rose which is saved as JPG in my system. Right? I'm giving this. I also want to specify the height of my division so that the image is completely visible. So I make it 300 pixels. Right? Let me save this and come back and run this. Mm, mm, just a second. Okay, let me just take off this background because of this my image might not be visible. Okay, let me just see if the image is available, and it is R1. Oh, I forgot. It has to be URL, the method, right? To this method, I have to pass a parameter that is the path, the location where the image is saved. So these are few things which we usually do. Right? I had told you that whenever an image is smaller and you are displaying that, it keeps repeating itself throughout the container. So if you want to limit this, you can use another property called background repeat set to no repeat. Right? So if I do this and save, observe. Got it? There is no repeat. That means by default, this parameter is having a value to be set as repeat. Right? So I do not want a single one. I want to repeat it in x direction. Right? So I can have repeat x. You can observe for yourself. First row complete repetition is happening. Similarly, if you want to have vertical repetitions, you can have like this. Right? So you can experiment on your own when you are working with your program. So here in this example, I have demonstrated two things, background image and repeat property. Right? Now, if I do not want to use a built-in or already available image. I want to create my own patterns. How do I create it? Yes, I have various methods for it. Right? What are those methods for creating the uh, patterns? The first one is conic gradient. Right? What is the conic gradient takes? It takes a minimum of two colors, I said. Right? Let me say red and pink. Okay? Let us see how the pattern is created. Image is taken off and this pattern is created. Right? So if I want to introduce the third color, yes. So accordingly, based on the conic angles, which I have not specified here, they're all the default ones. They are working fine for me, right? If I want to introduce few more colors, blue, green, right? So you would have different sections like this, right? So you can create your own conic gradients. If you want this to be repeated, because now it is at the center, you want a repetition of this, then repeating conic gradient is the value that you are going to use. Right? Okay, there is some mistake probably. No, the repetition is happening over here itself. Okay, similarly, let us see how linear gradient works for us. right? Linear gradient will have linear patterns, that is horizontal patterns created for us. In this case, it is going to be working with 5 colors because we have mentioned 5 different colors, right? This is how your linear gradient works. If you do not want linear gradient, you want to have radial gradient. Just replace the method and you will see a different pattern created for you. So likewise, you can play around with the background and use appropriately and wisely the background property, right? You can also test on your own how to specify the positions of the images and size. That I leave it to you as a home assignment. In case you are not getting it, kindly leave in your request in the comment. For any suggestions, please do write in the comments below. Looking forward for your support to the channel. Thank you.